Okay, and we're live. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon to our Zoom participants and good afternoon to our FB Live viewers. So it's Marvelous Monday today, and it's gonna be another long week of e-learning this week. So welcome to another e-learning session powered by Ariva Academy. So our topic for today is the V.U.C.A leadership, transforming a COVID-19 situation. My name is Irish Malonda Samson. I'm your host, and with me is my co-host and my moderator, Mr. Howell Mabalot. Hello, sir. Good afternoon.
Hello, magandang Lunes, Madam Irish, Miss Irish Malonda Samson.
Yes, thank you, sir. So later we will be introducing our guest speaker. So, but before that, let us welcome first our out of the country participants. So welcome and welcome to our e-learning session. Our attendees from Semeni, Malaysia, Phoenix, Mauritius, Doha, Qatar, Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, Singapore, Dubai, and Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates. Welcome. Los Angeles and Chicago and Boston, United States. So welcome to our e-learning session. And in order for us to have a smooth flow of our e-learning session, here are the house rules. For those of you who are first-time viewers of our webinar, please type in hi in the chat box now. Let us know where are you from as well, so we can greet you later. Okay? Good afternoon. Hello, Francisca, Delphine, Jolly Angel. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our e-learning session. Ms. Merlin. Hello, good afternoon. Michiko, good afternoon. So, okay. And we want to know if you can hear us loud and clear and we are audible. So you will be needing a good quality headset. So please use the following codes. Please type in now 111 if you can hear us loud and clear and we are audible. 111, Miss Leia. Okay, thank you. 111. Okay, loud and clear. 222 means you can't hear us. 2121 means our sound is breaking up or there's a log. And question mark if you don't understand anything. Okay, but so far, Sir Howell, 111. So we're loud and clear. Okay, moving on. We will be having a quick break, a 2 to 3 minute break. After the presentation of our guest speaker and before we move on to our question and answer portion. Participants' microphones will be temporarily disabled by the administrator during discussion to avoid interruptions. Questions will be entertained after each topic of the session. For questions and clarifications during the provided time after each topic, please click the raise hand button for the administrator to enable the microphone for live questions. Type in your questions at the Q&A box. One question at a time will be entertained. For comments and feedback, please scan this QR code. This QR code will be directed to our feedback form. Please send us your comments, your suggestions, topics to discuss in order for us to improve our future e-learning sessions. And now, to discuss the V.U.C.A leadership, transforming a COVID-19 situation, Mr. Howell Mabalot, please introduce our speaker.
Thank you, Ms. Irish, for the privilege of introducing our speaker for this Monday afternoon here in the Philippines. Our resource speaker today is recognized as a leading thought leader and a certified consultant and trainer in the field of strategic business management in the Philippines and around the Asian region with over 30 years of experience. Everyone, let's all give a hand for the partner speaker and Chief Marketing Strategist of Ariva Academy, Mr. Ricky De Vera. Welcome, Sir Ricky. Nice to
Good
see
afternoon.
you again.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, and welcome.
How was your weekend, Sir Ricky?
It's a very interesting weekend. People I'm talking with are now getting to be excited after the May 15. I guess after hearing this modified community quarantine that will happen. But as I always would tell people, well, that's 14 days to go. So for the meantime, we still have to manage ourselves moving forward. But it's been an interesting weekend. How about in your case? Yeah.
Which is why V.U.C.A is the topic for today. My weekend, nakita mo naman, sir, no? Kahapon medyo narattle ako because of an email I received na about the billing statement, and it has to be settled. I thought all the while it would be 30 days extension, but thank God for technology. I was able to settle it yesterday.
Yeah, that's true. Things are really happening unexpectedly, and that's one of the things that we will be also talking about for this afternoon. And
that's why I'm excited.
Right. I'd like to mention, by the way, thank you from the session that you hosted for me
last
through
week.
Ariva last week, yung April 29. I got a lot of followers from that as well, and that's just very interesting that we shared people how to use other models to strategize besides a SWOT analysis. And again, our role really, or my role, is to give people, businesses as well, and team leaders there a different perspective on doing things there. And that's what the V.U.C.A is all about.
I agree. So the stage is yours. The center stage is yours. The limelights are at you now. Take it away, Sir Ricky.
Oh, okay. Before we do that, can you just help me here? Can we do a quick poll survey of how many of our viewers now has actually heard and are familiar with the V.U.C.A? Heard and are familiar.
Okay, so
yes or yes? Yeah, raise hand lang.
If you're familiar,
yes or no?
Say yes. Okay. So to our participants, let me know. Okay, Kiara said yes. No, yes, Rainabel. Wow. So we have Ermelinda, no. So yes. Mary Chris, no. Okay, Gilberto, no. So I think it's a 50-50, Sir Ricky. Half of our participants are familiar with V.U.C.A, and the other half, this is the first time they're going to hear about it.
Okay, and for the 50% who are familiar with the V.U.C.A, can we do a poll? How many of those familiar actually have used it in terms of, inculcated it into their companies?
Say aye. Okay, if you have, okay, let's do this. If you have somehow used V.U.C.A recently, say aye. Or if not, then nay. So we're seeing no, a lot of no, Sir Ricky. Nay, no, a lot of no's and nays. Wow. So this is something that's new for almost all of them.
Okay. Now that
Something
is
new
very
to apply.
right. That's very interesting to get to appreciate from my end because as a person who is now sharing VUCA, I'd like to mention I have been applying the concepts
Mm-hmm.
and have even redrawn
Mm-hmm.
some of the implementation guidelines. So this is very exciting because we got 50% who have heard about
Yes.
VUCA, but those
And
50% have not
has ha-
really applied it.
oh no. So
Yes,
100% of the 50% has not applied it yet.
right.
Yes.
So it's good, interesting. I'm encouraging everyone, therefore, because you have here someone who will be sharing with you application,
Good.
how we have. And so, therefore, this is not just going to be what you read in the books or what we read in the internet. And I feel that's what I really like to bring in the sessions that I would like to share with regards to the VUCA.
Okay.
Okay, so
Thank you,
let
Sir
me
Ricky.
let me bring let me bring everybody now into an application in terms of the VUCA. So
Okay,
first
sir.
things first. Okay.
Wow.
Uh,
I love your
I'd
slide.
like I'd like to welcome everyone to your journey into this 1 hour roughly with regards to the VUCA. What I will be sharing to everyone is first I'll start with the walk back in time. So it gives you an appreciation of how early I've been sharing this in the Philippine market in the Asian market. And
Okay.
of course, historically, where it really started. Then we're going to talk about a
Um,
disruption that was
so Ricky,
caused.
speaking of
Yes.
disruption, can I somehow butt in? We are just seeing half of the presentation, half of the slide, and the other half is uh, not the slides. Okay, good, good, good. Thank you, sir.
Okay. This one.
Yes, yes.
So disruption, okay, of the pandemic. And then I go into what is VUCA and then move towards VUCA as the new normal and then the landscape eventually leading towards solutions. And a good question, how do you VUCA proof your team? So it's going to be a roadmap sharing. I'm still okay. Are my slides still seen by
Sure, we are
our
seeing again
viewers?
half of the slide and half the PowerPoint. Okay, now good.
Oh, okay, okay. I guess there's so many who would like to get in advance to all my slides.
They're peeking
Don't
into
worry, don't worry.
your slides.
Yeah, peeking into my slides. Okay, so a walk back. As early as 2015, 16, okay, I do economic and business briefings. And I have been already mentioning about the ASEAN integration and harmonization, where the Philippines will have to open its door to its neighbors, and there will be harmonization. A lot of audiences I've talked to was asking that cannot happen or how can it happen and what will happen if it happens. And I fondly remember that was when I started to use VUCA when a situation is going to happen. But the question is, we are uncertain, we are not sure of the implications, okay, because it has not yet really happened. That is VUCA. So as early as 2016, 15, 16, and thereafter, I've been using the word, did you VUCA your business plans? Did you VUCA your strategies? And then I'd like to move on. Uh, I remembered I was also invited last year. in March, where it was a summit. It's a People Managers Leadership Summit. I was advised to take the eighth slot, which is that is around 4:30 until 5:30, end of the summit. And this was given to the audience. Um, I I was invited by the organizer, and they asked, "Sir, would you wanna? It would be good if you can come in early so you can, feel comfortable and take a look at the other speakers as well." And something in my mind was telling me, okay, yeah, why not? If you're prepared, you're ready for anything, so might as well relax. Okay. Oh, by the way, hold on. I'm just uh, fixing my slide from my end, but let me just continue my story. So I came in at around before lunch in this summit, and as I came in before lunch, okay, it was full packed of more than 500 participants. Okay, it's a summit of leaders, and the organizer comes to me and tells me, if there's something that,
So Ricky, we cannot
okay,
see your video. Can you share your
okay,
camera,
hold
sir?
on for a while.
Okay, sir, no problem.
Can you check it now?
There seems to be
Yeah,
a problem that
I
when you share your
camera
PowerPoint.
share. Uh, this is going to be compatible. So as I came into the session proper right after lunch, I introduced myself to the audience. I said, if you're surprised because I'm in Agenda 8, welcome to V.U.C.A. And
Yeah.
the whole 500 were like, you see them old, and so that is what V.U.C.A is all about. And I said, V.U.C.A is about something you did not expect. It happens, but show must go on. And I'd like to mention, therefore, as a walk back, when I was also invited. Okay, can you see? I'm moving now to the next slide.
Yeah, good, sir.
Right. Uh, because I do give business and economic briefings. Uh, when I was invited for 2020, how I see the economy, how I see the environment, and that's been a lot of companies, inviting me.
Mhm.
I already have shared in my economic briefings last December, coming into 2020, and then moving into January, February. I was already telling a lot of the audiences, the environment is ripe for a VUCA, another VUCA. And I'm just saying this. I cannot predict. Let me be clear about that. But one of the things that I have developed in myself is what I call foreknowledge. It's not something that is easy. Foreknowledge is an intuition, a very strong intuition in looking and sensing the environment. And so therefore, last December, coming into this year, January and February, a number of the companies who have invited me for their business briefing, etc., in preparation for their plans, are now thanking me and Ricky, thank you. At least you have forewarned us, because I was telling them it's not going to be business as usual. There is a strong, there is a strong sense that I am feeling, sensing that something is going to happen, particularly because of globalization, and it has happened. Again, I like to make it very clear, I do not make predictions, but honed up, I have honed up for knowledge. And that is something that is very important in an environment of. Okay. So I now like to move on, my good friends. And yes, I'm still getting invitations for Ricky moving forward now. Okay. And I'd like to just share this. I've always included environment as part of any business, and an economic environment will influence the economy and business. My good friends, then we've got the COVID-19 pandemic, where countries with more than 100 cases, you see it there right now, it's a story. I don't want to repeat into that story. It's a very interesting story. But where are we coming from? It started in China, and the rest of the world was saying, okay, keep it there. But then eventually, coming into February, coming into March, coming into April, coming into May, we're seeing a lot more countries that are now affected by this, the pandemic. And this one is critical. This one is very important for us to also appreciate and understand, because what it therefore means to say is that if we take a look at the Philippine economy today, where much is reliant on global trade, this is also something I'd like to share to everyone, not sounding negative, no, but more realistic. As we open ourselves to global trade and to the global economy, it is easier. It is easier to be affected when something happens in any part of the world. And I'd like to emphasize that perspective. Uh, China has just been reporting that their economy in the first quarter did not grow at all. It actually went for a slump, and Europe also. And we're waiting, of course, for the Philippines. The interesting thing in the Philippines, it was only by the second half of March that there was a lockdown. So I sense that our quarterly growth for the first quarter probably be on the positive side. Okay. Now, uh, as we take a look at it, therefore, my good friends, uh, what has happened here? Let me clarify this now. I'm going to my next slide. VUCA is a combination of four variables. Combination of four variables. This is going to be important to everyone who is listening right now. Okay. Why? Because in certain situations, you could have the V without the U. You could have the A without the C. Let me make that very clear. They can stand alone separately. So for us to also better appreciate this now, I have had a lot of studies that went into this and for the information of everyone. If you go to the internet and you Googled, VUCA was an acronym that was crafted by the US forces a couple of years back because the rules of engagement in warfare was changing. Now, for us to better appreciate this, you can Google VUCA. I don't have any concern there, but it's more of the appreciation. If for us to appreciate, therefore, VUCA, you'll have to look at it from what I call the x-axis and the y-axis. The x-axis and the y-axis. Okay, now please be very clear and follow me here now. The x-axis says how much about a situation that is now present do you know about, or how much of a situation that you're about to enter do you know about. On the y-axis, it is a question of how can you predict, okay, can you forecast the outcome of the action that you will take. So this is very important. Let's not be thrilled about the V, the U, the C, or A. Let us be more pragmatic about the template. There's a template for this one. Okay, now I will apply the four elements in the template so for people to appreciate it. Since 50% have never heard about it, 50% of you audience have heard about it but have never applied it. Okay, so I will now move to the next slide. Volatility is one of the variables or elements of VUCA. It can be taken separately. Okay, taken separately, without the U, without the C, without the A. Volatility, if you take a look now at my slide, it's about rapid and unexpected challenges. Okay. Now, please take note. In the X and Y template, it's on the upper right-hand side. Okay. To put more emphasis into that one, volatility, therefore, is the rapid speed of change, okay, that is happening as you are entering a situation. It is associated with fluctuations in the demand and the turbulence in the landscape. Okay. Likewise, the momentum, okay, is expedited in this kind of a situation. And if I were to use an analogy, this is very interesting, my good friends. January, you still remember, of this year, afternoon, I was in Cebu and I got an advice. I was supposed to fly back to Manila that afternoon from Cebu. And people in Manila were telling me there has been smoke seen in Taal, level 1. In less than what? In less than 1 hour, level 2, and then level 3 and level 4. That is my analogy. Volcanoes. are volatile. That's why I cannot, sometimes I'm trying to understand why people would say, how come they were not able to predict that there's going to be a level 1, level 2? It's volatile. So the speed is faster. Okay, so that's my analogy. That is the volatility. Okay. I'd like to move on. Uncertainty. Uncertainty in my chart is on the lower right-hand side. Okay, lower right-hand side. Okay. And that means to say it is not certain how my decision will affect because it's uncertain. It's low. Low predictability on the outcome of my decision. And at the same time, I'm not so sure really about this situation. That's called uncertain. So it's on the lower right-hand side. This is what we call, or as professors, as advisors, okay, a gray area where the predictability of information is unknown. Okay, it occurs in environments. Okay, because of the complexity that is already happening now in the landscape. Okay, uncertainty occurs more frequently. Uh, if we do not have enough information, if we do not have clarity of information, then what happens there is that we are making, therefore, what we call gut feel decision. Not logical anymore, because there's not so much information and there's uncertainty in what is happening. Okay, let me make this very clear also. Let me make this very clear. In an uncertainty situation, you can have historical data. Historical data. However, the interesting thing here is you are looking at a futuristic situation. Okay. And because of that, it is again challenging to say, ito yung sinabi ng data. This is what the data tells us. It's supposed to go here. Why is it going there? Thank you. Thank you very much. We need to understand uncertainty. This is my analogy. In the United States, they're called twisters. In the Pacific region, they're called typhoons. I hope you're all listening attentively now, right? What starts there? The Philippines is visited by the average of 20 typhoons a year. 20. The United States, depending on the state, they have their own historical record. But what is so interesting, if you listen in and tune in, it starts as a low depression area has been spotted, south to southwest of the Pacific Ocean, very far from the Philippines. So that's interesting. And then this depression, now low pressure area, eventually becomes a depression. Okay, and then eventually the depression becomes a typhoon because that's the historical movement. And then you've got people asking, when will it hit us? When will it enter the Philippine area of responsibility? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that is so challenging even for Pag-asa, because they will say, based on what is happening right now at 20 kilometers per hour, it is estimated. But and then everybody prepares for it to happen. And then they say, oh, bakit wala pa? Welcome, estimate. Every typhoon, every twister have their own way because of Mother Nature of changing the course. Of changing the course. So my analogy is, yes, there are historical records, but historical records is about the past. It's never about the future. I hope that made it very clear to everybody out there. And if you're finding this interesting, tell your other friends to latch in already, because I am bringing it down from an academic point of view and from a scientific point of view. That's why when I get to listen to Pag-asa, or when I get to hear my relatives in the United States, there's a twister, I say, brace for it. Brace for it. Okay. Welcome to uncertainty. Now, let's move on to complete my chart. Then we have complexity. Complexity is a situation where it belongs to the upper left-hand side. What does that mean? How much of this situation do we really know? Not that much. Okay. But can we somehow predict? Yes, there will be the possibility to say it's probably going to be this way, but I am not sure at what percentage it's going to be. Okay. Now, let me make this very clear. Complexity is supposed to be simple. Why? It's about making decisions. Period. However, I'd like people now to appreciate it. When you make a decision that is based on standard operating procedures, and many of you might have heard of that in your offices, in your homes, okay? There is an event that is happening, and you ask your supervisor or you ask your manager or the executive, ma'am, sir, what do we do? Ay, sundan mo yung SOP natin. Follow our standard operating procedure. I mean, now, make it very clear. For me, as a advisor, a consultant, a mentor, when you follow a standard operating procedure, you did not make a decision. You followed a standard. So what is decision making? For me, it's more complex. You make decisions, and you can quote me on this. You make decisions because the situation is so flexible that there is not so much information, but you make those actions and you got to do something about it. Decisions, therefore, for me, are risk decisions. They're risks. You take a risk. And that's where the complexity now comes in. It refers to the amount of information that you need to put together. And you know what is so interesting today? Uh, I have, as an advisor, as a mentor, and a consultant, been invited by my clients in their meetings. And what I find interesting is that in departmental meetings, when one department will suggest a solution, let's say to a situation affecting the whole organization, you will hear the other department manager saying, but that will not work because if it was me, so where am I coming from? The complexity is about understanding whether your decision will affect you and others as well. It is about knowing that there are now more elements to consider, more variables to consider, and it's getting to be greater as a company expands, as a company opens up new offices, as a company looks for suppliers outside of the Philippines. There is already complexity that is happening. Okay, actions and results are going to be interlinked. And that's why it's very important for us to remember this. My analogy, I hope you appreciate the analogies that I'm sharing from the Tal volcano, okay, to the twister. Now, what is my analogy to complexity? Kaleidoscope. Years back, I remembered one of the gifts that was given to me was a kaleidoscope. It was like a tube, okay, that had coverings on both sides. And then what you do is you put it and then you look at it, and one side is to face the sun, and then you move it around and you'd see like it's a prism at the same time in harmony, kaleidoscope. And for me, that is very important. If we do not see things from a kaleidoscope perspective, then there is more complexity. There's a tendency for people to look at things from their point of view, period. That's not going to work moving forward. And the fourth variable of the V.U.C.A is ambiguity. Ambiguity is, if you take a look at it, lower left-hand side. Okay, what does that mean? There is not so much I know about this, and we've never faced something like this before. Ambiguity. There are just too many unknowns. Okay, and ambiguity, therefore, is the lack of clarity in interpreting because there was no precedent. Ambiguous. Okay, the information is not complete. It's not holistic. There's a lot of ifs, maybe. Okay, and there are cases when you take a look at the different information given to you, they contradict each other. So what do I do? I mean, have you ever tried to ask people, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? We haven't done this yet. What do you think about this? And usually you have a split. 50% will say, don't do it this way. Others says, no, do it this way. So what is your decision there? That's ambiguous. That is where the ambiguity, there's the vagueness of ideas. Okay. And the more ambiguous the world is, the more harder it is to interpret. And my analogy for ambiguity was what I shared earlier. When it was announced that there will be the ASEAN integration, it has never happened before. There were a lot of questions. What's really going to happen? What will be the impact? Do we need to harmonize? Who will harmonize first? Who'll bite the bullet? And we now also go out of the country more aggressively. Ambiguity. So, my good friends, and this one is very important, and this is very critical. I'd like to share this. V.U.C.A, what I am sharing is the situation where these four environmental elements, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, all get together. Okay, let me make that very clear. You could have volatility without the three. I do not call that V.U.C.A. I call it volatile. You could have complexity without the three. You don't call that V.U.C.A. You call that complexity. Okay. You know what, my good friends, and studies have shown individually complexity coming in, but not the three. Uncertainty coming in, but not the three. It is much more manageable, much more manageable. The thing, however, is that the situation that we've had in the pandemic is a situation where all the four went into the act. That's when you call it V.U.C.A. That's why there are people that I meet and I tell them, V.U.C.A, have you encountered that? And they say, yes, sir. There was a situation in the office that it was so volatile. I said, okay, fine, but was it ambiguous? No, sir. So no V.U.C.A, volatile. I hope this is clear now to everyone. The V.U.C.A is the situation wherein there is the attraction of the four variables together in a situation as it is happening. And that is where it becomes disruptive. Because you've got volatility there, things are moving so fast, you can't even respond to it. There's been uncertainty there, okay? Because somehow you said a piece of it, I've done that before, but not really holistic. And then there's complexity in terms of, should I make a decision right now for everyone, or should I consider everyone because everyone is now affected? And then there's ambiguity. There's so much ifs, there's so much buts, and that one is so critical. You put them all together, my good friends, and that is exactly what is happening today, my good friends. And that is the reason why I say this. When the four gets together, there are sudden shifts due to the outliners, the adjacencies, and the disruptions. Let me make this again clear to everyone. This is my belief as an advisor, as a mentor, as a consultant. Changes does not start in an organization. Why change if your organization is doing well? What is happening today, my good friends, if we've got a lot of organizations that were doing well, but because of the V.U.C.A affecting them, okay, they realize what they are doing well as best practices is not working anymore. Now, don't get me wrong here as well. Then I hear people or companies say, now we have to do change management because, what we're doing now is not working anymore. I usually like to, from my perspective, your company does not change in a V.U.C.A. The environment changes because of a V.U.C.A. Your company will either react or respond. You choose. The sudden shifts is not in the company. It doesn't happen there. It's from outside, from the environment, from the markets. Okay? And that's why companies and the leaders of companies are now facing extended period of amplified, converging, and rising V.U.C.A. Okay. I've also been invited in a number of sessions wherein it's about change management, and I'd like to bring in and say, no, no, no. If you say change management, then what you're saying is what we've been doing is wrong. I usually say, no, the environment is changing. What we need to do is to respond. And because of that, ladies and gentlemen, just imagine you've got volatility, you've got uncertainty, you've got complexity, you've got ambiguity all happening at the same time. I mean, don't tell me this started within a company. No, it is in the environment. We cannot control the environment. And because of that, let me share this now. Volatility. Look at what has happened. On December 31, 2019, that's when the Chinese officials confirmed that they already had dozens of cases of pneumonia, and there was an unknown case. And then a week later, the outbreak was already defined as, oh, it's a coronavirus, a COVID-19. That's the volatility. Then you've got uncertainty. And the question is, so what happens next? Okay, there's been so many viruses already in the past. We were able to control them. But what happens now with this virus? Welcome to uncertainty. There has been so many viruses in the past. But this COVID-19 is another what? It's another version of a virus that they're saying is more potent. So there's the uncertainty, but there is the historical. And because of this uncertainty, how long will it take? Nobody knows. Panic buying. Panic buying. Will it affect our country? I'm not sure. Panic buying. And then you bring it into the complexity. You bring it into the complexity. And what is that? Complexity is I'm trying to now find a solution. And you'll notice, my good friends, every country is left on their own to come out with their own pandemic lockdown. There was no single standard. There was no single standard. And so for the Asian market, we were more on controlled lockdown. Okay? For some of the Europeans, they were more on bringing the lockdown to a more responsible citizenship. You are more conscious. So this is where the complexity is. We cannot just make a small decision. And eventually, ambiguity now is what happens now next moving forward. There's still a lot of ifs. There's still a lot of buts. So the COVID-19 is, and I'd like to share this, this was not the first situation that the V.U.C.A came in. Okay, for those of you who are probably, if I were to call it 30s, 40s already, you've heard about the global crisis in 2008, 2009, no such thing before. You've heard about the Asian crisis. And then for those of you who are, a little bit more early, you've heard about the Great Depression. For those are V.U.C.A situations. Those are V.U.C.A situations where four of the elements all get together and then it's a tailspin. It's a tailspin. And then the question is, moving forward, how do we work around it? How do we work around it? So I'd like to bring it therefore. The normal, from an academic perspective and from an advisory and mentorship perspective, the normal paradigm of many organizations, many departments, many teams, I say is, if I were to put it, is they plan, there's a planning stage, and sometimes cut and paste plans, because this plan worked before, I see the future as okay, let's just bring it back in. That's plan for some. And then you got the implementation stage, okay? In terms of what are we going to do, okay? Who's going to do it? Let's implement it. And I realize in a lot of times in the implementation stage, what is missing? Preparation. It's always rush. The plans were great, but in the implementation, they forgot. There's so many things that you need to prepare before implementing. So what do we hear? Rush, ASAP, urgent. And sometimes I ask myself the question, I thought you planned. And then you got the monitor. And I feel sad being an advisor, being a professor, uh, being a consultant and a mentor. When I get to hear, when I visit companies, I get to hear them say, oh, let's monitor what we did. Because, well, that's the normal, I guess. But for me, monitoring is a little bit more laid back. Why? You monitor. Question. What are you monitoring? And if something happens there that you didn't like, what do you do? Okay, and so I'd like to say this. This diagram I'm showing now, which is the normal paradigm, yes, a number of companies, many companies are doing this because things has been normal. However, because, and I'd like to emphasize this, the COVID-19 was not the first time a VUCA has happened. Question is, people have a difficulty of learning what has already happened before. Because once it's good times, we forget. I have crafted, because being an academician, a consultant advisor, I have crafted, taking a look at things now as well, through my more than 20 years, uh, what I call the VUCA landscape, okay? The new normal paradigm. Okay, let me now make this very clear. As an emphasis, VUCA is in the landscape. So the new normal, the VUCA landscape, we cannot control that. Because of a VUCA landscape, and I was just checking the internet this morning, and I looked at it, there is still no clear solution, antidote for the coronavirus 19. So what is happening now? Countries are saying we have to move on. There will still be cases, there will still be death, but we have to move on. So that's where I'm coming from. It would have been great if we waited for the antidote. But I guess everybody knows if you wait for that antidote, you might not have a business anymore left out there. So this is also a reality now. Living with a landscape of VUCA. That's very challenging. So the new normal paradigm, I was asking around some of my fellow advisors as well. I was taking a look and listening as well to other thought leaders. And then I was saying to myself, and this one I have shared to a number of my clients as well in the past. Plan is not enough. Assess is more appropriate. Assess, because the interesting thing about the plan is once it's approved, it's already gospel truth. People don't want to touch the plan anymore. People don't want to touch already the assumptions of the plan. they just like to implement it. My sense, no. Your plan is based on an assumption made 3 months ago, 2 months ago. So it becomes more compelling, even for the sales team leaders there. I'll tell you, anyone there, even if you've only got 2 people reporting to you, if you think that your plan looks great, that is the start of your downfall. In today's landscape, no. Plans has to be constantly assessed, not on the plans, on the assumptions. Assessing stage. And my role, our role as advisors is to constantly challenge. What was your assumption for that plan? What was your assumption for the strategy? That's why sometimes people don't like us. But that's fine. We don't have to be liked. But one thing I really appreciate, we are remembered. I'd rather be remembered because of we challenge rather than like, but then many of our clients are not there anymore. Next one I'd like to add into it. Implement. Remember in the normal, let's implement it. Wow, I have heard this so many times as well. Sir, but if we implement it and it doesn't happen that way, there is this common statement. In Tagalog, I'll say it, I know we have audiences there from the US, from Singapore, from the Middle East, from India, but I'd like to share this. In the Philippines here, there's a common statement that I get to hear that we use when we're implementing, and there's so many things that is still not yet unknown. Bahala na si Batman. I hope my Filipino audience can relate. Bahala na si Batman. You know, my good friends, honestly, it pains me. It pains me because it tells me one very important thing. You are implementing without being clear of your fallback positions. You are implementing without really having a project plan. We are implementing praying that things will turn out the way we want. The more appropriate terminology in this V.U.C.A landscape for me, governing. That is why it's so difficult for me to become if don't get me wrong here, but it's so difficult for me to become a public official. Why? Because if you're a public official, you're supposed to be on top of the situation 24 hours. That's governing. When it is implementing, you delegate it to someone, implement it. And if there is a problem, tell me. But in governing, there's such a big difference, because when you say govern, it means to say we implement, but we are aware of our accountabilities, not just responsibility. And we will ensure that we will be able to get the desired results. I have used governing instead of simply implementing. And the realization is governing does not come in easy. We develop the competencies of governance. There is governance that is important, ladies and gentlemen. And this is also very critical because I go now to the third in the landscape, the new normal landscape that I have envisioned, I have looked upon. And it's called evaluating. Earlier in the normal, I shared it was to monitor. But then from a V.U.C.A perspective, I cannot just monitor. Like, this is what we expect. Tell us if it did not happen. I mean, that's not enough. Because the way I look at it is monitoring many times is late already. Sir, we're not getting what we were monitoring, what we wanted. And based on that one, what do we do? You know, my good friends, when you do that, automatically it tells me you are not proactive, you are reactive. And that's why we're bringing in evaluating. And why is that critical? Because if, for me, we have designed a process wherein if you evaluate, you do not just take a look at the results that you like, you also take a look at what we call lead indicators. The results that you like are lag indicators. That's what many are monitoring. But then what happens is if you're not getting it, anything that you do after, I would call it, you are reactive. But if we have an evaluation, and again, as we said, we have designed that, an evaluation process where there will be the lead and the triggers, then you're more proactive. Another point I'd like to there also emphasize in this V.U.C.A landscape. The V.U.C.A landscape, you go to the internet, you not see the one below because that's my perspective. Being a thought person as well, I put in things. So for me, it's assessing, governing, evaluating. I have respect on the normal paradigm, but personally, it's not enough moving forward. A point I'd also like to add, if you'll notice to all the viewers there, okay, assessing, governing, evaluating, I have added the letters I, N, G. And when you add the letters I and G to a word, it tells you that word will not stop. Governing. You cannot just govern today. You have to govern over the next number of days that you are in that role. And that's one thing also I'm emphasizing to people out there. Please tell this to your friends, tell this to others, tell it to yourself. In a V.U.C.A landscape, you have to appreciate adding the letters I and G because it is still unfolding. Unfolding. And that is critical. That is critical. Now, the questions that I have also been asked, and I'd like to share this, is if we were visited by volatility without uncertainty, what can we do? If we were visited by complexity but no ambiguity, what can we do? Okay, so that's the next thing I would like to share. Okay, but I emphasis to everyone what I'm going to share in the next slides is a mindset that the V comes in without the U.C.A, that the U comes in without the C.A.V, that the A came in without the V.U.C. Let's put that into our minds because that can also happen. That can also happen. Okay, so let me respond to it. Let me respond to it then. Volatility, the Taal volcano type. When that is the kind or the category of situation, though I use the word category here. If that is the category of the situation you are facing, just the V, okay? Volatility. First, this is my suggestion and my advice. Suggestion because I've read through it, advice because we have also implemented it with a number of our clients that we're helping out, okay? Provide meaningful data. What does that mean? The biggest challenge in volatility is how soon can I get the data and what kind of data am I getting? The tendency in many organizations is when we talk to people, we tell them, tell me what happened, okay? Tell me, give me the data. That's interesting, my good friends, but try to think about it. You could get as many data given to you, but they have no meaning. Because data actually has no meaning. They're independent. The question is, did you put the data together so it becomes a statistics? Next question is this one. When did they tell you the data? Because in behavioral psychology, there, and we've been through clinical studies as well. We participated in it. I, being a behavioral psychologist, I realize also there are cases wherein when people feel that the data that they give you will affect them, they give you selective data. And so therefore, imagine you are being given data, not anymore timely, and then still selective, then you need to make a decision. Welcome to volatility. So my suggestion and advice, you got to get your people together. You got to make them understand timeliness, and you got to make them understand there is nothing to hide. Clarity of communication also is very critical here. In a volatile situation, my good friends, there is a tendency for leaders to take charge, to take charge. And it means to say, suddenly, the rest of the followers don't think anymore. They just have to do what you want them to do. And for me, that is a situation waiting, okay, to explode. There still has to be clarity in the way communication is. And the tendency is when we are in volatile situations, we react. And when we react, we communicate, but it's not anymore clear. Okay? Like, pag may sunog, kunin mo yung tubig. Hindi naman, parang, tayo saan? Ano ka mo naman? Kunin mo na yung tubig. Kasi naguguluhan lalo eh. And so the volatility gets to be more emphasized. Okay? So there's got to be that clarity in communication, which of course connects now to the person giving the communication. And the third is, I emphasized this already earlier. Let me remind, ensure timeliness. I have actually crafted a eight stages of a situation. Okay, you don't see this also in the internet. Okay, I love when people say, Ricky, I didn't see that in the internet. Yes, because otherwise, what is my purpose to be in front of you if everything I say is in the internet? So I've created 8 stages of a situation. Of course, with due respect to the great leaders, listening to them and then putting it together. Okay, and those 8 stages, if understood by people in a company, will answer already when is the best time to bring it up to the attention of the next in line. When is the best time to bring it up to the attention of the next in line? So that's a template that we have created, 8 stages. And if you use that, it triggers you already when is the best time. So if it was only volatility, provide meaningful data, get your people to be clear on what is important data, clarity in terms of communication. You got to complete that sentence, not just give a direction or an instruction, and ensure your timeliness. And timeliness, as we said, is the trigger, the trigger. And there's a tendency for people, particularly managers, saying, how come when you bring it to my attention, there's nothing more I can do as a manager? Welcome to volatility. Now, if the independent situation was uncertain or uncertainty, this is what we would like to provide you, guidance. Diversity of perspectives. This is very important because uncertainty means to say there are, if I were to go back earlier, there has been typhoons in the past. The question is, will this current typhoon follow the same track? Welcome to uncertainty. There is history, but I love and I appreciate actually what Mark Twain, an American novelist, mentioned. History does not repeat itself. Prior to that, I always believed history will repeat itself. But then when I internalized what he was sharing and I looked at what has really been happening, history does not repeat itself. It can rhyme, but it cannot repeat exactly what it was before. So welcome to uncertainty. Diversity of perspective means to say, as an individual, you do not see everything. So there is a need to be able to now to get others as well, okay, to provide their own perspective. That's called diversity. Question, of course, is have you prepared your people to actually open and share? Number two, because it is uncertain, have a disruptor. I shared to many earlier what I love being in invited, let's say, in facilitating business programs or planning sessions for sales teams, for operations, etc., is I come in to disrupt. That's very important. Why? Because there's a tendency that people of the same feather flock together. And so if somebody has something different to say, then this is, why don't, and I'd rather keep quiet because my vice president might not like what I'm going to say. And I always say, share this, okay? Is it worth to have a third party in some of your sessions? Okay. And my answer is this one. The reason why you're getting a third party is because you need someone to disrupt who understands your business landscape. And that disruptor actually provides you that uncertainty preparedness. And uh, the third there is I also do innovation and creative programs. You know, creativity, innovation. Uh, there is what they call, if you want to be creative and innovative, think outside of the box. Now I'd like to share this. What if there was no box at all? Think as if there is no box at all, because this box still puts parameters. My good friends, uncertainty is anything can hit you anywhere. So what box are we now talking about? I know for some who has attended my sessions like 15 years ago, I was talking about innovation with out of the box thinking. In the last 5 years, I have moved away from out of the box thinking towards no more box. Space, space thinking. Now, if the situation was complex, what are my guidance? Collaborative and inclusive. Because complexity means to say, I'm going to make a decision, but now I got to be conscious because there might be other decisions that I make that will affect people who do not report to me. Okay, and that's not going to be easy. Like the complexity of, and I hope you don't mind, when the decision was there will be a lockdown by Sunday and it was announced on a Friday, it's not really simple because that means to say you're giving people only X number of days to prepare for it. And that's complex. And definitely you'll get a lot of complaints. That's why the way I'd like to guide you, you got to bring in our collaboration. And it's got to be inclusive. Not meaning everybody, but giving different sectors a chance to be heard. And collaboration is not about this is my idea. Because for me, once you say this is my idea, you're not collaborating, you're influencing. Collaboration for me is this. This is the situation that we have. I'd like to hear what your ideas are. Next guide, and many might not feel good about this. I am a proponent, and for those who have been attending my sessions, seminars, or conference talks, and even for those I'm giving coaching and mentoring, I constantly am encouraging we need to get people to be more open to risk. Gone are the times that we can't do that, we can't do that. You don't say this, you don't say this. This is complex already. We got to encourage people now in terms of understanding. I'm not saying encourage them to take risk. It's about encouraging them to have a risk mind frame. Okay. And then we need to also prepare to empower people. This is critical because empowerment means that you are now emphasizing they can take those risks. Of course, there is another set of processes on this one. We cannot, however, explain all of the details, but we've done it for a lot of our clients, a number of our clients already, and they find it so interestingly different, but they are now saying it's working. And thank you very much. Now, if the situation is ambiguous, ambiguity, I'll have to bring in here now synergy, a spirit of synergy. Because ambiguity is a lot of ifs, a lot of buts, a lot of I'm not so sure. So when you start thinking about that, then you've got to be more synergistic. You know, when it's ambiguous, do not it's a tendency for many. Okay, let's just have a raise of hands. Okay, there's 10 of us in the room here. We've never attacked something like this. How many of you likes it to be done this way? How many of you likes it to be done this way? So that is what I call you are making a decision based on majority vote. Please, the synergy I'm talking about here of listening to others is not about majority vote. It is about at the end of the day the spirit, the synergy of when they raised up their hand, how sure are they or what is their level of, yes, this is how I feel. That's synergistic spirit. And that's not easy. Divergence in thinking. Divergence in thinking is very important. In a number of my sessions during this pandemic, and even before the pandemic, in my sessions with clients as well, I've been espousing already divergence. You know, the generations, for me, that's a divergence, but that's good because that's divergence in action. So we have to also uh, emphasize on divergent thinking. And for me, divergent thinking, it's a bit on behavioral. For me, there's no right or wrong answers. It is rather, I'd like to find out from where you're coming from. And then the setup has to be incremental. And setting up incremental would mean to say that there has to therefore be an appreciation, my good friends. This is the sad part. This is the sad part. Many companies, from the way I see, have not prepared their teams on succession planning. What do I mean by that? If somebody leaves your organization, who's going to take over? And if that somebody who will take over also leaves, who's going to take over? And that's what I'm trying to say. I've been hearing a lot of these sessions as well on succession planning. But you know, the mindset of people is, why are we going to be serious on succession planning? Hindi pa naman magre-retire. But that's where I'm coming from. A lot of organizations look at succession planning as needed only because the people will retire. My good friends, in these times of ambiguity, you don't need somebody to retire to move on. And so therefore, my question is, where's your setup? Okay, so I've shared if the volatility happens without the V.U.C.A, I've shared you guidance. If the uncertainty happens without the V.C.A, I've shared you guidance. If the complexity happens without the V.C.A, we've shared you guidelines. And if the ambiguity happens without the V.C.A, we have shared you guidelines. Now, what is interesting here, my good friends, is what if the 4 happens? What if the V.U.C.A happens all at the same time? That's a bigger issue. And there are a number of mindsets out there in the thought leadership world. And this time, I'd like to bring it to a closure. My next slides, I'd like everybody to please pay attention. Very important. Because my next slides, I will share what other thought leaders have shared and what I am sharing also as a thought leader, understanding the Philippine scenario. Okay. So that is what I call mutual respect. It will be up to you, my good friends, to decide which one to take. You can take both. You can take one side. You can take another side. For me, okay, I listened over the last so many years, ever since V.U.C.A was introduced. Uh, I have seen, I have tested, I have applied, I have modified. And this is now what I'd like to share. I'd like to share. Okay. Uh, there is one thought leader, Bill George, okay, a senior fellow from Harvard, and he has introduced what is called a V.U.C.A solution 2.0. Okay. Now, uh, I'll go through it, and then I'll also share mine. Okay. Again, this is a sharing. It's not going to be the full blown because we do not have time for that, but for you to get to appreciate and understand. So the V.U.C.A is in the environment, and this environment will continue to be there. Might be a different uh, COVID, might be a different situation, but the V.U.C.A is going to be there. Businesses, we need to adapt to the new normal landscape. And so therefore, the question that I have on the right for everybody out there now who's listening is, what are the evolving competencies that organizations, companies, departments, teams would need to invest and embrace moving forward? Again, my good friends, when the V.U.C.A all comes together, that is not simple. That requires evolving competency. So you're going to be seeing two perspectives now. Your call on where to go. I'm a wide reader. I'm a consultant with fellow consultants. I've listened to many as well, and I appreciate it. At the end of the day, you make the decision what you feel is more applicable. The first one, okay. Bill George in his V.U.C.A 2.0 talks of four competencies. I'm also espousing four. The first competency or the first solution that he shared was vision. Okay, vision. And I'd like to give you, from my perspective, it will be versatility. Now let me share with you first vision. From Bill, he says, vision is the ability to see through the fog and to have a vision ahead for the organization. Vision is about being able to assess situations and then from there decide where the company should go. You know, my good friends, I was asking myself, I've also worked for multinational companies. There are Americans, Indians from the West. Again, with an open mind. What I find that is peculiar is that in the Philippine setting, when you say vision, the mindset of people is executives, owner. In other domains, in other cultures and countries, when you say vision, they know they are part of that. But what am I getting to see in the country here? I have been with many companies as well as an employee. You know what's so interesting? When we're being oriented as new employees, the HR comes in and tells us, this is the vision set by the owner. So as an employee, okay, And then I'm going to hear HR say, you have to remember this. Huh? So it happens to be a vision set by the owner. It's a poster. I need to remember and I need to be able to live. And one thing also I realized, I hear a lot of employees, yun ang vision pero hindi naman sinusunod ng manager ko. Okay, so again, ladies and gentlemen, yes, moving forward, a competency that is needed is to be visionaries. But then, because we are in an ASEAN setting, particularly Philippines, I guess that's the reason why when I also get to listen to others, I always ask, can that apply to the Philippine setting? And so from my end, I said, yes, agree. I have sessions where it's talking about visionary leaders, okay, fine. But then what happens to the employees? And that's where I introduce, for me, the competency is versatility. And versatility is about developing in people abilities and capabilities they thought they never had. That's the first. Again, there is a process that we do for this one. Right now, we are sharing with you two school of thoughts, vision, which I appreciate totally, but in the Philippine setting, majority of our companies, I'm not saying all, mahihirapan yan ng visioning, yung mga empleyado. Versatility, that I feel is much more appropriate. Vision, definitely the executives, the management team got to sit down together again. But then I have to ask this question. The vision has to be revisited in a VUCA situation. Next one that was shared is understanding. So Bill shared understanding, where leaders have the duty to understand the organization's strengths, their weaknesses, their blind spots, okay, in order that they be able to pick up the best strategies, okay, and at the same time, be able to understand as well what is happening to the economy. Again, ladies and gentlemen, I totally support understanding. Yes, clearly, very important. But if I take a look again at the Philippine scenario, I'd like to guide and develop unwavering as a quality competency, as a competence. Wow. Why? Okay. Because the way I see it again is this one. Understanding would be for definitely the leaders, the management, the executive. If you're following me now here, you're noticing that I am looking at a company from two sides, the management side or the executives and below the management side. And that's the way we have been doing our sessions with our other clients as well. There's the management competencies to build, and there are the after management competencies, below the management competencies. And sometimes these below the management competencies would even start with the managers, assistant managers, team leaders, etc. Unwavering for me is a competency I'm espousing, okay, where it can help in managing VUCA all at the same time. Why? Because unwavering means I'd like, and we develop a person to continuously be steadfast, and not losing focus despite the disruptive landscape. And that is critical because the one who will implement are the managers and below. The one who's strategizing are the executives. They need to understand, yes, but try to bring that much understanding to the people down there in a VUCA situation. They probably will say, what do you want me to do to really understand everything or to be developed more in terms of my steadiness, steadfast, my focus? Third, courage. Again, courage was under the 2.0 solution. And courage is being able to bite the bullet, during these times to make decisions. Okay, very important. Okay, and of course to take more decisions. That's courage. I was asking myself, my good friend, how much and how many of people in an organization or even in a team actually can be empowered to make a decision? Because in the contextual setting, okay, now I'm using the word context for because for me it's contextualized. That is the competency we develop in organizations who ask us for guidance or support. Uh, where I'm coming from is this one. In most organizations in the country, when you say authority to decide, usually what you hear is this one. Is he already a manager? Is he already a vice president? So it seems, and it is clear, that here authority is relative to a position. And that's the reason why I espouse, yes, courage for the leaders. But what about the rest? Contextualize. And what is contextualize? For me, contextualize is the competency where we develop in people ways and means to analyze events, to analyze situations in context, okay, before they address it, before they respond to it. And if you are able, and we have seen this, we have done this with a number of our clients as well. Once you are able to get people to contextualize better, okay, a paradigm shift, they realize they did not have to bring up the situation to the next in line. What is missing in many is the reason why they're bringing up a lot of situations to their bosses is we have not taken the time to develop the competency or the skill of contextualizing. And finally, the fourth, my good friends, adaptability. That is what is being shared in the 2.0 solution. This is the one that you can check in the internet. And adaptability is, of course, for organizations to now get to find out how they can fit better to the new norm. Okay, and adaptability, of course, is more than just flexibility. Again, I'd like to make this very clear. I am all for adaptability. That's very important as well because V.U.C.A will now be also the new environmental norm. But then I was also asking myself, but it would be of interest if we develop the competency of agility to support adaptability. And this is, for me, important because I take a look at it. Adaptability happens when you are flexible. Be flexible first and then adapt to it. And if you can follow, okay. Take a look first, choose, be flexible, and then what you like, you adapt to it. So before you can adapt, for me, you got to be flexible. But then if you're going to be flexible, there is a one very important consideration. But are you agile? Because flexibility is like a rubber band. And if we do not have agility there, then it's going to be challenging to become adapting. For again, for the C-suites, this is probably easier because we get to be rotated in the organization. My take, therefore, is competency. You want V.U.C.A when they all hit us at the same time? Agility. Agility is nimbleness, ability to change a person's position so that they are efficient, effective, and for me, it is about expediency and dexterity. That's very critical. You know, I've also heard, and I'd like to share this. Even multinationals have taken, have asked us to guide them. I tell you, even multinationals, and a number of these multinationals were telling us, we've been using agile management to address VUCA, but it does not seem to work very well. And my take to that is this one: agile management. This is my take. It's not going to solve VUCA. If you take a look at my slide right now, agile management solves a portion of VUCA, not the totality. That's why when the question is, we want to bulletproof or we want to prepare our organizations moving forward, what should we do? We already have understood agile management. I usually would tell them that's just a part of it. That's not the total solution to be able to cope up with the VUCA environment moving forward. So, my good friends, there's so much that I'd like to share, but this would be the details already of how to develop the versatility. But why are we here? Why am I here? Because moving forward, the VUCA landscape is telling us that it is not a question of should we prepare for it. Rather, it is a question of how do we prepare for it? How do our leaders or our executives prepare for it? How do our middle managers prepare for it? And how does the rest of the organization prepare for it? And so therefore, if when we are asked about it, we say you cannot have the same competency across everyone. There will be leaders' competencies for the leaders, for the executives. There will be competencies for the rest of the organization. So that's how I'd like to wrap it up. VUCA can be taken separately. You can have volatility only. There are guidelines for that one. You can have complexity only. You can have ambiguity only. You can have uncertainty only. Or you can have all of them together. And that's what I would call the perfect storm. Are you ready for them? Are you ready? This is not going to be the end of a VUCA environment. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Howell. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sir Ricky de Vera. Thank you so much. And we would like to encourage everyone to put your hands together. And may mga clap, clap, clap na. Thank you, very well said, etc. Now, that's a 1.5 hour worth of free learnings given to you by the generosity of Sir Ricky and through Ariva Academy. We thank you, Sir Ricky. Again, thank you for your time, for your wisdom, and for your generosity. Now, we'll be returning after a 2-minute break. The 2-minute break will be for you, our dear participants. It's your water break, it's your coffee break, get something to nibble on. But in the meantime, for our participants right now, we encourage you to type in your questions, not at the chat box, but at the Q&A box. And when we return, brace yourselves for more of VUCA. Not the VUCA 2.0, but the VUCA Ricky de Vera style. Okay? So, we'd like to greet first our birthday celebrant before we pause for a break. Crystal May Bermudez. Happy birthday, Crystal May Bermudez. And to all of you who are celebrating your birthdays now, if we still have time, if we can read your names or your messages, we'll greet you as well. So in the meantime, again, it's 2 minutes. Digest all the learnings that has been poured to us by Sir Ricky. And when we return, let's answer those questions. Don't go away. We'll be right back.